Hi, what's up guys, AshBFC here again to bring you my Dead Space 3 review. Alright, so before I get started I'll state straight away, I'm a huge fan of the original Dead Space. I thought that game was amazing. I just loved the hell out of it. It was so friggin' good. And the reason I loved it so much was because of the horror. The amazing horror aspect of the game and how well it was done. It was the atmosphere that was so good about that game. They just nailed it so goddamn good. It was the anxiety it created. It was the awesome, dim, gloomy, dark environments. It was this sense that anything can happen anytime, something's going to burst out and get you, a sense of dread. There's a claustrophobic feel to the game. It was very creepy. I just loved it so much, and the jump scares worked really well. It was just done so well. And I really enjoyed the second game as well. I mean, some of the horror was toned down in favour of action, but it was still a damn good game, and the horror was still there, and I still loved it. Which brings us on to the third, and to why I think the third is a huge disappointment. The horror's gone. What I love most about Dead Space is gone completely. What, in my opinion, I thought made Dead Space is gone. The game has become a full-blown action third-person shooter. Basically what it's become. And it's to broaden the fan base is the word that's always getting used. Yeah, this keeps happening a lot. Some of my favourite gaming franchises, particularly horror, are just getting watered down and torn down to broaden the fan base, which basically means to create more money. Yeah, this keeps happening and it sucks. It's greed again. That's what EA does and many other companies. Yeah, it just sucks so much, and all it does really is it just pisses off the original fans and alienates them. Yeah, and it sucks. I mean, they called it a necessary evil. It was a very unnecessary evil, but it certainly wasn't evil. Yeah, it just disappointed me so much. I knew that it was going to be quite action-focused, but I didn't realise the horror was going to be gone completely. It's not there at all. The atmosphere is not there. The jump scares are not there. It's just lost its magic. I mean, because they included humans as an enemy type, which, again, necromorphs versus humans, And the environments as well, they were completely different. They were opposite end of what, they were in Dead Space 1 and 2. I mean, a lot of them are big open spaced environments, brightly lit. There's no teasers with the scares. A lot of the game even takes place out in the open snow. Bright white snow. So, not very scary. Polar opposite of Dead Space 1 and 2. Yeah, that's my main gripe, is just the horror has gone completely. And it just didn't feel the same at all, And that sucked. Another thing they did that didn't work well and I didn't really like was the new weapons crafting system and upgrade system. They changed it quite a lot. So in the first two Dead Spaces you went to the store, I think it was called, and you just bought your stuff, you bought your weapons, and new weapons unlocked the more you played through the game. You just bought your health packs, you bought your ammo, you bought your status packs, all that sort of stuff. Pretty straightforward. The same with the upgrade, you collected power nodes as you went through the game, and you could use those, stick them in the weapon slots to upgrade, whatever aspect of your weapon you want to upgrade, like, more ammo, quicker reload time and damage. Pretty straightforward stuff. But they tried to add more customization this time, and they incorporated it all into one system on the workbench, where you craft your items this time instead of buying them, using all the different parts you pick up throughout the game. You've kind of got to do a little bit of scavenging. So that you can craft your weapons, you can build new weapons, you can customise the weapons you already have, all these individual parts, which sounds really good on paper, but the execution was kind of poor in my opinion. It was just kind of a cluttered mess, I thought, was the entire system. I really didn't like it. I couldn't be bothered with it. Yeah, all I really ended up doing was just crafting my health packs and ammo. I couldn't be bothered building different weapons, and half the time I didn't even have the parts to build most of the weapons, which kind of sucks. So I ended up playing the game pretty much with all the same weapons, which kind of got boring quick. I mean, maybe that was just me, I wasn't scavenging enough, I didn't fully understand the system, but I just ended up getting stuck with the same guns throughout most of the game. I mean, one of my favourite weapons in the original Dead Space games was the Ripper, the saw blade weapon. I love that thing was brutal, and I never got a chance to use it. I think it was in Dead Space 3, but I never got a chance to build it. I'd rather just stuck with the old system and be able to buy the weapons. And I wasn't particularly a fan of that system either, because it was so basic, but yeah, I mean, I like customization, but it was just kind of a mess in this game, I thought. I didn't like it. So yeah. Another problem I had, which is an unusual thing for me to say, is I thought the game was too long. There's 19 chapters in this game as opposed to 13 in the other two Dead Space games, I think. There's a handful more chapters. But I mean, by the time I got to chapter 12, I was kind of ready for the game to be over. I kind of got bored. It's not paced very well. There's kind of some dull objectives, and it does drag on too long. I mean, normally you'd hear me saying that the game's too short. It's only ever really JRPGs that I say are too long. But yeah, I just thought it dragged on way too long. I mean, there is these optional objectives you get throughout the game that you can choose if you want to do. There's a handful of them. I found myself skipping most of them because I couldn't be bothered. Because I was just kind of ready for the game to be finished, which isn't really a good sign, is it? But yeah, those are the main issues, and they're pretty big issues in my opinion. Of course, the main one being the horror, which really brought the game down in my eyes. Well, even though I have been very negative, you know, I'm not calling this a bad game by any means. You know, if you dig deep down beyond all the disappointment, there's still a fun game to be had under there. I mean, the core gameplay mechanics are pretty much exactly the same as the original two Dead Space games, which were good. It's still just as much fun as ever, you know, ripping necromorphs apart. There's some new necromorph designs which are really cool. Some really cool sequences as well, a ton of fun and set pieces. Some of the environments do look pretty amazing. You know, you'll find yourself, particularly the missions where you're floating through space and out in open space, you'll probably find yourself stopping just to have a look around, and it's pretty jaw-dropping stuff. It's a very, very visually stunning game. Probably the best looking Dead Space of all of them. And the boss fights are pretty cool as well. I did enjoy the final boss. Even though it was very simple once you figured it out, it was still a pretty amazing thing to look at. It was a very, you know, huge-scaled boss. And it was a lot more fun than the final boss in Dead Space 2, because I thought that thing kind of sucked. But, yeah. You know, like I said, the shooting is still fun. You know, there is some cool weapons in there. You know, it's still a fun game, but a majorly disappointing game in my eyes. And I imagine Dead Space will continue beyond this. It will. It's EA. You know, they don't just stop a series, do they? There probably will be more Dead Space, but I do think if it does continue, Dead Space 3 is kind of the beginning of the end, because it's probably going to go even more action focused, if that's possible. But yeah, majorly disappointing. They just kind of took the series in the wrong direction and alienated a lot of the original fans to appeal to new fans. So, you know, if you were too much of a pussy, you didn't have the balls to play the original Dead Space, then fear not, you can keep your balls in your purse, because you don't need them in this game. But yeah, and they also tried to tell a bit more of a deeper story this time around, and I really wasn't interested in it. It wasn't told very well. I mean, it wasn't completely bad, but I didn't really care much for Isaac and Ellie. It just was kind of, yeah, you know. I didn't really care much for Isaac Clarke. I didn't think he was that good of a character. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, Gordon Freeman and, you know, Link from Zelda are better. They don't even have voices, but, yeah. But like I said, very disappointing game, particularly to the original fans, but there is still a fun game to be had underneath it all. Still maybe worth checking out, and particularly if you were a fan of the original two, it might appeal to you now. But yeah, very disappointing. Very disappointing. But, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah, I'm going to give this game a 7.0 out of 10. I think that's been kind of generous. But, yeah, that's my Dead Space 3 review. So, thanks for watching, guys, and see you later.